Welcome back. Welcome to another edition of Nain Shorts. We're just doing a little bit of training, trying to figure out how do we optimize the way that we move. Now, we've heard terms before like, was it efficiency of motion? Um, yeah, cutting out as many moves as possible. Why do something in 6 moves when you can do it in 3? All these other things, different conversations about the idea of becoming more efficient in the things that we do. We're no different. We do the same thing. We approach it however we approach it. And I want to talk about that idea because today I want to talk about baseball. Baseball, what does that have to do with martial arts? Other than the bats are pretty menacing when you know how to swing it well. Not much else, other than the ideas and concepts behind that. Now, I'm sure those who are even just a little bit familiar with baseball have heard the term batter's box. You know, the optimum area and range where you can get a good hit off the ball, where the batter is trying to keep all his swings so he can be most effective with when he's at bat, when he's receiving the ball from the mound. And then on the other side of that, you have the strike zone, where the pitcher wants to optimize where he puts the ball and even uses that range to sometimes even trick the batter into swinging where the batter wants to swing, but the ball dips or goes out of the range of where it's supposed to be or where it's intended to go. So you have all these things, but just those two concepts of the batter's box and the strike zone, okay, from two opposite sides of the offense and the defense. And that's what I want to talk about today. If we think of that as the optimal range, optimal area in which some individual, anyone, whatever size, can swing their weapon, where is that? Where can you go? Now, for us, we talk about the idea of not swinging outside of your shoulder. So keep everything within your shoulder. That's the beginnings of your batter's box. Also, we don't extend our hand out and then drop. We rather just drop our hands. Now, the reason why we do that is to keep our hands safe, but it forces the weapon to come out ahead of our hands. So this then becomes our batter's box. This is where our weapon then becomes most effective because the swings are more sharp. They're staying within a confined space, which means I know where my weapon is at all times. So unbeknownst to many of our new students, we're developing this idea of where we keep our weapon, this range, this effective area where our weapon swings. And as you can see, my empty hand replaces, whenever the weapon removes itself from this box, my empty hand is taking its place. Many different reasons behind that. It could be because I'm blocking, because I'm baiting. It could be because I'm pulling something out and attacking. It could be because I'm poking somebody's eyes. We've talked about in the last video how important the empty hand is in Filipino martial arts. And this becomes that example of where we're placing our weapons. Because it's no longer about where we're putting the sword, but rather where our body is and what it needs to do to always be in the optimal range. Why is that become important versus the weapon? Well, because there are various weapons. And if you have to learn a different way to wield each weapon, well then where's the connection other than your body? So if you understand where you're putting yourself, then it's a lot easier to adapt to the changing weapon. We move on to the knife. Okay, the batter's box is now a little bit smaller because the weapon is smaller. I'm not going to swing out here. I'm not going to bring it from here all the way down because I don't need to. It's a knife. The tool itself, because of the way that it is designed, it's meant to be closer. Now my batter's box is a little bit smaller. It's tighter. I can bring this and use it where I need to. And the great thing about it is that because I understand that not only is my batter box where I'm most effective, it's probably also where my opponent is going to attack the most. Which means if I am constantly within this area and I'm facing my opponent, if I look towards my opponent, if I change direction, I know where my weapons are, I can do something about receiving their pitch, their attack. Because that's what a fist is. The fist is just traveling, coming at you. A weapon is just traveling, coming at you. But everything, regardless of what it is driven by that hand, which means at one point or another, it has to cross your batter's box. It has to go into their striking range. So, that's half the fight right there. I know where that person is going to attack, even though I don't know what attack they're going to use, even though I may not know this person's speed, height, weight, any of those things. But I know they're going to attack me. They're going to have to cross this area at some point. And because I spent all this time just with the weapons, utilizing this area and understanding where it's most effective for me, for my size, for my height, for my range, I have a response, or I'm maybe a little ahead on being able to then take care of whatever comes into that zone, into that batter's box, that I can take care of, because I know, oh, I don't need to extend any further. What happens if they go away? I just have to use my footwork. That's why we learn footwork, so we can move the entire plane that's going on, instead of bracing ourselves and then just trying to reach out. Well, I can't, not with this weapon. And I put myself in a compromising position. So not only does the batter's box then give us a sense of where we are most effective, it also tells us where are we structurally sound. At what point does that batter's box not really utilize its most efficiency? If I'm leaning forward, do I really have the strength and the stability to then be able to do anything effective? Or if I realize, okay, I need to take half a step back. Oh, I need to take 2 steps forward to reach my opponent, but still maintaining the structure of this area. So then I'm most effective. And because I can move it at any place and point, I can change the targeting. If my effective range is right here, this is where it converges. Well, then why don't I just shift it to that part that I'm trying to hit, and then shift back to the other? The human body has multiple sides. You can always find a way to get through it. But it becomes more important to understand that even though I switch between weapons, I can still utilize mechanically the idea of staying within this box, even as a close quarter fighter. Because that's what we advocate. We advocate the idea of being close quarter, because eventually, and most likely, you're not going to have a weapon. You're not going to have a stick or sword or a knife. You're going to have this. So then where do these become most effective? Where is your range? And we talk about it. We say little nuanced things in all martial arts, but not fully extending your elbow. About blading, so you can get a little bit more range because you don't want to hyperextend, but rather you use the rest of your body, so you can get that difference in distance. You move, faster footwork, getting in, getting out. All these things become part of this idea where we want to maintain this space and have full control and full access to everything that's right here in front of us, because we can always change. We can always back up. We can always move forward. And oftentimes I think we forget to do both of those things. I can tell you for a fact, at the beginning, I was just the same. My hands were flying, but my feet never moved. So now understanding that we have this box that needs to move along with us, well, we just need to get it to where it's most effective. Right here, in front of our opponent, and then we'll see what comes of that. But just a little bit of a training idea of where do we become our most effective, and that is where we have the most influence with all of our weapons. And I don't mean the sword, the knife. I mean our hands, our knees, our feet, and most importantly, our thoughts and our ideas that go into the training that will eventually come out in the real fight. Because whatever you train most, that's what comes out. That's why we use ideas instead, because I have no clue of what's going to happen out there if and when I get attacked, by whom or how many. I just need to be able to think on my feet and get my ass out of there as quickly as possible and incurring the least amount of damage possible while hurting them as much as I possibly can, if need be. Because again, every self-defense situation is different. Sometimes it's enough to think your way out and say something that's going to de-escalate the situation, and sometimes you may need to go through somebody just to get to the door. We can't train for every possible scenario, but we can always train ideas and concepts to constantly be in our mind so we can formulate something there on the spot that's most effective for that particular situation. This idea, just training. How do we stay within our batter's box and develop that with no matter what system we use, no matter what martial arts we practice, so we move most efficiently, minimal motion, and still get a great deal of return when we apply. So, how do you guys train that? How do you guys train the idea of staying within your proper range, your proper spacing? And how do you then develop it? And how do you get your students then to start thinking in terms of this instead of just going through the moves, instead of just doing what is meant to be, because that's what was taught, but to go beyond that and then incorporate it into how they're capable of moving, because again, they're the ones going to be involved in the fight. Can't call you for help on that one, so whatever you train, that's what will come out. Thank you for joining me on another one of Nain's Shorts. Like, share, subscribe, all that. Do appreciate all the people that are watching, and till the next one, keep on training. 3, 2, 1, cut!